Well, looks like I'm live. Okay, who? Let me pop this into Darren's announcements. I know I can't finish a sentence. I guess, where did I post it before? I must have posted it in general chat. So, okay, I don't know. It doesn't look like there's anybody here yet, but I am curious. Who was it that Darren said was starting to live stream now as well? Because I'd actually like to check out their live stream. So if anybody out there knows who that is, put something in my chat because I'd like to check it out. Okay? And let's see, I want to make sure. Check, check, check. Yeah, it does look like my stream is working fine. So, okay. Where are we at today? And actually, I'm going to look. Bear with me, friends. Well, actually, it doesn't look like there's anybody here. So, making a show, is that? Oh, that's Vuck. Vuck is, I've seen Vuck on Darren's. I'm looking at Discord. I'm just looking at Discord to kind of see what's going on. So, anywho. Okay, so according to YouTube, we are live. So, close that and get to work. Okay, so last time we were here, we were working on this shot, and I've been working on ink paint color, pretty much everything actually this morning. And so that shot is basically ready to go. I'm debating whether either I want Monkey in there or perhaps I want to change his position slightly. And then I think I'm going to give him a little bit of a backlight to pump him up a bit. So, how are we going to do that? Well, I've got Alpha Lock on already. Yeah. And so I'm just going to go to white, but turn the opacity way, way down. So I can just go in here and just put a little bit of an edge on the top here. Now that's not going to work actually. Well, here's what we can do. Let me sample that color and then crank the opacity back up. That solves that problem. Well, the problem is if the brush is semi-transparent, then you can't paint over the same spot twice without the opacity starting to double up on itself. So I think that'll work. Yeah, it looks okay. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Let's render that and put it into the show, and then we'll move on to the next shot. Boom. Do 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 do. Okay, let's turn on the preview. So we got this shot we did with Luca a couple days ago. And now we have this shot looking pretty complete. So the lighting situation's kind of changed because Melchizedek and Tianara have turned around. Right here they're backlit. And here they're obviously not. So, because they're facing out of the cave. So we got one concurrent viewer. So identify yourself. Who is here? And more significantly, did you just come from Darren's live stream? I am curious about that. Okay, okay, so this shot has run its course, and we need to do the next shot with Tianara. So this is what we're working on. Well, no, not this. We need to go to this shot. Okay, so this is obviously needing to be reversed. It's actually going to be more like that. It's going to be a fairly tight close-up, actually. So that's what we're going to do next. In order to make that happen, friends, I am going to, I guess we will leave these, we've got these sort of subtle lighting effects on top. We'll leave those in here, and I think for my purposes here, we will delete the entire Mel. We need to leave the background in there. And then Luca, we can get rid of Monkey. And then we need to take Luca. He doesn't have any animation keyframes, so I can take the whole group, hit the A key, and just move him over like this. I'm going to make him a little bigger. And consider actually having him flip. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting little choice slash conundrum because I need to scale this up. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually mirror this horizontally and come back to it because I think I'm going to have to do some repainting on the background anyway because this is going to be a bit of a jolt. What we need to do now is get Tianara roughed in there, and I would say actually I'm going to rethink this. I'm going to get rid of that completely. We'll see what we wind up doing with the background, but the bottom line is this is a pretty tight shot on Tianara. So this is going to be shot number 0322. File, save as, new folder 03-22. And this is going to be 03-22.craw. Save that. Okay, so now I made a couple changes on my main pencil here that I wanted to show you guys today. Let's hit the B key. I played around with a concept like this some time ago, and hang on, let me call this PT for pencil test and then put it in a group, and we'll call the group Tianara. Tia. Okay, so what I did was I've got this, my main brush that I use, okay? Basically, it's kind of pencil-ish. I wanted to see if I could do a better job than I did before of modifying the brush so that I'm able to go straight from sketching to ink in one step. So the basic gist of it is you want to be able to use a blue or a red pencil to sketch things in, and then without having to really do anything else, instantly have viable ink lines. So what I did was in my settings, first thing I did was I changed my overall pressure curve. It was basically linear before. Now it's going to be more light until I kind of really press hard, and then it's going to get darker. But the more important thing was in the settings for this, whoops, F5. In the settings for this brush, I added two changes. And the two changes are for the saturation and the value. So you've got this reverse curve where the harder you press, the less saturation you have. And likewise, less value, which means the harder you press, the darker things get and the less saturated. Well, that becomes very interesting because what that means is I can be sketching with my red pencil, which is what I tend to prefer for a pencil test. And then when I'm ready, all I have to do is just press a little harder. So the idea is to be able to put these sketchy lines in here that guide you, you know, scribble, 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 and then you go, oh, that looks right, that feels right, boom. And then you can basically do two things. For me, you can use the color to alpha filter, which will get rid of the red, and then you can also use Control M on the alpha channel to clamp out stuff that's semi-transparent that you want to have be fully transparent, and then you can also clamp it up. Now that will result in less alias lines. You'll get a little bit of stair stepping, but you can mitigate that pretty easily. And besides, if you look at actual size, you can't even see it. But if you wanted to mitigate that, you could do like a 1 pixel blur, which softens it a little bit, and then once again use the alpha to just dial in your ink lines. So you got a lot of control. And again, the whole idea was to be able to be using what I'm seeing evolve here is, and let's actually just do this with TNR. We might as well just get busy. Okay, so BE. So the idea would be to maybe start with a very Mark Crilly / Christopher Hart concept where you really think about the simple geometric structures that comprise your character, okay? Alright, she's kind of looking down. We want to get the eye line basically correct. Always flip your canvas. Ah, look at that. I can see some distortion. Okay. So the idea is to just block it in, like for the eyebrows. Just draw a single curve that works when you flip the canvas. You know that's your guide. Nose, mouth. She's got her little bindu, of course. Okay, and then so again, we got 4 people watching. Who's here? I want to say again, maybe you guys didn't hear it because you weren't here yet, but I'm curious. Darren said somebody else is starting a live stream right now, and I'm, you know, and I kind of feel a little bad because I might be stepping on someone's toes if they have to sort of make a choice whether they're going to watch my live stream or this other person's. But I don't have any idea who it was that he mentioned, and I'd like to check out what they're doing actually. So, okay, so there's the concept, and then maybe you'd switch to a blue pencil to start dialing in the details and get real specific about what you're trying to do. Okay, like that. And then if you like what's happening, then you just press a little harder. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. I love the idea of being able to go straight from scribbling to viable ink lines. So this is definitely an anime kind of approach for sure. So Awkward Penguin, hey man, think it was Animator Island, but I only joined at the end, so I didn't quite catch it. Animator Island. I'm gonna look that up because I'm just curious who they are and what they do. I've never heard of them, and obviously Darren's got more viewers than I do, so there may be some really interesting and talented people showing up over there. Animator Island TV. I'll bet you that's it. Yep, Animator Island is live. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the audio on Animator Island's channel and say, hey, Animator Island, I heard you were streaming. I am too. Sorry to we'll just leave it at that. Interested in checking out your work. Yeah, because I've never heard of Animator Island till today. And he's got 19 people watching, so clearly he's got a pretty vibrant channel going on. That's awesome. Absolutely. But what he's doing is quite interesting. Stylistically, looks like pretty cool stuff. So very cartoony, as it were. That's cool. So anyway, I'm doing a shout out to Animator Island because it looks like, you know, he's got some cool stuff going on, and I did decide to live stream without realizing I was stepping on the toes of potentially somebody who's kind of a common friend of Darren T and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, back to work. Okay, Sifter, I feel like I'm thrown out of a loop here. What's Animator Island? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never heard of him until 5 minutes ago. And Darren said he was getting ready to live stream too, so I'm like, because we do have kind of a, you know, it's a bit of a little community here, and I try not to step on other people's live streams that are, you know, sort of part of our little, our little club, as it were. But so again, this is I'm liking this so far. So by adjusting the brush so that when you press a little harder, both the saturation and the value decrease. So it's basically a reverse curve. You get this ability to rough everything in with the red pencil and then start tightening it up with the blue pencil and then just press a little harder and boom, you know, there's your lines. Definitely cool. Now Tia, we've got to put a little bit of a curve like that for her eyebrows, or for eyebrows. For her cheekbones. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I am a fool. I like your comment there, Sifter. Oh, that guy. I trust you saw my, I'm talking to Sifter. I trust you saw my comment on Discord about our little adventure we had this week. We'll just leave it at that. But I tell you, the reason I went down this road of changing my brush was this. If we jump back over here, look at what happened. I was looking at the website. Okay, so I basically I was talking about this earlier this week, but I scraped the website SETI I Dreams because I thought it was just an amazing resource for just, you know, real world anime material, you know, storyboards, character designs, yada yada yada. And so it's kind of funny, but what happened was I stripped the site down to its bare minimum so that I could go like to color designs, and then I just get a list of folders. I go to this, and then if I like what I see, and this is not on the SETI I Dreams website, it's just in my website that I coded here. But then if I'm scanning through it and I'm going, oh, I like what I see, then I click this and I get this larger list of images, and if I mouse over them, they get blown up. Okay, so you can look a little more closely or whatever, right? So I was gonna convert the files to make them smaller because I'm like, they only need to be like 1200 pixels wide at the widest, right? And so the problem was that the batch conversions that I can do easily without using like ImageMagick or something don't discern between the file type that it is resizing. So in other words, if you've got a mix of PNGs and JPEGs, it's going to turn them all into one or the other. Now that's not an insurmountable problem, okay? But it's funny because I'm sitting here in the Faststone image viewer, and I'm looking through to see what I've got, because like in these folders you've got JPEGs, and in some of these other folders you've got PNGs, and I'm just scanning through, and then I stopped and I said, well, wait a second. What I'm wanting in the website is exactly what I have here. I just go to, it's very performant, so I go to any folder, there it is. I get a preview here, and if I double click it, I can actually scroll my mouse to go through the images. So I'm like, why am I going to keep coding? So this was very informative, because remember, friends, the best code is the code you don't have to write. Right? And so I'm like, okay, stop everything. Why am I going to improve the website even more when what I was trying to achieve is already working perfectly well through the Faststone image viewer? And by the way, I hardly endorse the Faststone image viewer. You guys can look it up, but it's F-A-S-T Stone, Faststone image viewer. You can get it as a portable app, at portableapps.com, but it's a really good image browser, and I use it all the time. It's got actually some pretty decent editing capabilities baked in, but I hardly ever use them because obviously I'm going to be probably doing that stuff in Krita, right? If I need to do it. But its batch conversion faculties or facilities are quite impressive too. Because if you got a bunch of files that you need to resize or something, you go to the open the batch convert rename, and you can do renaming. If you go to the advanced options, this is what I did. I said, okay, I want the width to be exactly 1200 pixels, but only if it's not already smaller. And I did a test, and it worked perfectly. The problem I realized then was, well, wait a second. It's going to put out JPEG or PNG, and there is no way to tell it that if you're resizing a PNG, save it as a PNG. If you're resizing a JPEG, save it as a JPEG. Again, that problem could be mitigated by going into the web page codes and just doing a global search and replace and change everything to JPEG, right? Which I did a fair amount of that, like batch search and replace in order to dial the site into what I wanted. But like I said, I'm a pragmatist, and once I realized that I was just duplicating functionality that was already in my image viewer, I'm like, okay, stop the presses, stop everything. We'll just call it a day and not do any more coding. So I'll show you guys here in a minute what this turns into in terms of the way it looks. I'm not totally sold on that I did a great job on TNR's eyes, because I'm kind of wanting to demonstrate this workflow. Let me see if I can fix that. They're a little bit wide from each other, in addition to being wide individually, so I probably could actually just do a slight translation of the eyes as a pair and get pretty close to where I want to be. And I would say that's pretty good. And then let's take Liquify and just change the shape a little bit. Yeah, that's better. And I'm going to flip that around so I can see the disparities that are going to start to emerge. Notice, friends, that if you have a selection, whoops, if you have a selection in Krita, then that allows you to manipulate with the transform tools, liquify obviously being a common candidate, and just isolate the changes just to that area. Okay, so the only problem I see now is that her pupils are kind of fouled up. So let me switch to this brush in erase mode. I'm just going to erase this and copy it from the other eye, and we'll see if that works. And then we'll go ahead and see how the getting rid of the alpha on the drawing works out. So that may not make perfect sense at the moment. It'll make sense here in a minute. Okay, that feels pretty good. Control Shift A, so there's no selection. Back to the B key and just erase that little artifact right there. Okay, so then the idea here would be probably to run color to alpha twice. So that got rid of the red. Do it again and get rid of the blue. Right there, that got rid of the blue. It looks like we still have a little bit of red left. There we go. So we got rid of most of the sketch that way, and then if we hit Control M and do a little bit of a clamping on the alpha channel, we can actually erase out most of the rest. As you can see, there's still a little bit of artifacts here and there, but that feels pretty good. I would say this was probably not the most amazingly successful because there are a few artifacts here I got to clean off. So it is a bit of a work in progress. But even so, to go from just sketching to, you know, a viable ink, holy cow, that's pretty nice. Pretty quick. Pretty lickety-split, as they say. Okay. So I believe that is backwards. She's going to be over here like this. And I'm going to make another, whoops, need to hit the A key there, Jack. I want to make some slight adjustments here. Very slight adjustments. This could maybe be pushed in a little bit. I'm thinking her hair should, I'm going to just erase that and fix it. Her hair should really be falling more straight down, I think. I'm just going to go like that. Okay. M key. Not too bad. So her line of dialogue, let me jump back to Vegas. Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe going into Gripson's not the greatest idea in the world. Okay, so let's take the pencil test and insert a keyframe. Because what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing on her that I did on Melchizedek. So I'll go ahead and put the color in a separate layer, but I may wind up baking them together. We'll see. Let's go ahead and add a shadow layer. Hello, SHD, and so let's get the color scheme for that girl. This is going to be a little tricky because all the colors have to be slightly lighter. This is actually a good example of where the whole idea that you're going to be able to have a inviolable color key turns out to be a bit of a joke because I mean you can, but especially if you're kind of working fast like I do, it turns out it's just as fast to just sample colors from previous images and then make adjustments as you see fit. So F key, sample that, and that is obviously going to be too dark because in that shot she is backlit. And then her skin tends toward the olive. That's too much. At least I think it is. So let me sample that again. And not make quite as big a change, so slightly lighter. Okay, I'm in the wrong layer. That probably went without saying. Sample that. Let's see what that looks like. Just slightly lighter. Okay, so you can see that we're getting a little bit of we're doing a little bit of battle with the fact that those lines were still languishing underneath, but that's okay. That's not going to really do too much harm, as you will see here in short order. Okay, so now if we just hit the G key, we can clean this up really fast. We'll go into behind mode and just go like that. Just sample the colors. Here we'll sample the hair color, yada yada yada. Probably want to fix that before we fix the eyebrows. Boom, boom, boom. Her bindu thingy dingy is going to be a dark, kind of a rich red color. Her eyes are something like that. And we'll go back into normal mode. I'm going to switch brushes, go over here, darken that a little bit. Okay, stop everything. I want to check something now. Why is that brush? Maybe I already had that brush selected. Yep, no, that is strange. It's almost as if that brush is not giving me pressure sensitivity. That's a bit weird. Oh, I never hit the B key. Okay, Dave, you are a doomcoth. I had the freehand path tool selected instead of the brush, which is pretty silly. Sorry about that, friends. As I like to quote Snoopy from Peanuts, sometimes I'm just smart enough to know how dumb I am. There we go. Now we can sample that color, go back to behind mode, and actually just clean everything up. Gorgeous. And this is a totally, actually right there, I was going to say, it's a totally legit way to work when you're going to, you know you're going to be getting multiple keyframes out of one drawing. You know, if you know that's what you're going to be doing, then it kind of makes sense to just spend a little extra time on that one key drawing that you're going to be building on. Okay, so as you can see, there's still a little bit of artifacting from the pencil lines, but basically we're in pretty good shape. Okay, and then in the ink/pencil test layer, I'm going to go ahead and put the specular on her eyes. Now technically that's a bit of a joke, since she's facing away. Wait, I'm sorry, that's wrong. She is facing into the light source now. So okay, we'll keep going. This is where things will start to shape up in terms of the image quality. You will see. And usually I use the freehand path tool for this, but in this case I'm just brushing it in. Okay, so this is going to be probably about 16, the shadow layer. And oh, TNR is so pretty. I love TNR. She's like such a cool character. Okay, so I'm going to solo that. Well, I guess I need to cut that off right there so that I can then solo it and just do a fill operation right there. B key. Alright, so are there any questions from the peanut gallery at this point? Or am I such an amazing instructor that everything is absolutely crystal clear what you're doing and how you're doing it? And of course, there's always that possibility that nobody particularly cares. It's just kind of fun to watch. Okay, do we want to introduce a bit of highlight? Let me try this. Actually, I think that would not be the worst idea ever. That would not be the worst idea ever. So if we put the background back in, I would say we can get rid of this. Whoops, that's not what we want. We want that. Get rid of that. Okay, so now what we want to do is make sure that each of our layers have at least one keyframe in them. And the reason for that is that this is actually her landing spot. Typically we're going to wait 1/2 of 1 second to get into the shot, and then she's going to move from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this frame. Watch this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really big liquefy thing. I'm going to do the same thing I did with Luke on that other shot. I'm going to move her back a little bit. We'll fix the bottom here shortly. It doesn't matter. And then we'll go here. We could turn on the skins so we can see what we're doing, probably in the color layer. Yeah. Okay. And then here what we want to do is we want to pull her back even further. There's a little distortion, obviously. The truth is that probably doesn't matter because it's only on the screen for 1 frame. But we'll try to fix it as best we can. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this bit here, copy it back to here, and then we're going to take this bit and we're going to reverse the whole thing. I think it works on all of the layers at once. Let's find out. Okay, so you can see we've still got a little bit of a hiccup there at the bottom. 1, 2, yep, right there. Slight hiccup. And yeah, I guess that's it. I saw a little flash probably right there. I think that was a, yep, a little bit of an artifact. Okay, got it. Now we need to save this as, did I already save this as 22? I did, but I haven't rendered it. So let's save a 22, and then let's look at our render settings. And this needs to be 22. This needs to be 22, and let's just render it, and then we'll smack it into the show. see how things feel, and then we'll get our actually let's put these effects on. I'm looking at this potentially being in overlay mode to sort of punch up the saturation just a little bit. Okay, that is the foreground. I'm going to put that on top, and this, quite embarrassingly, is pretty much nothing. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, the rock silhouette needs to be modified a little bit, so let's just go ahead and... Well, actually, this edge would not be in there. This would be gone. And which really leads me to think that the other edge should be taken out of the previous shot. That may not make sense to you guys, but we're just seeing in the foreground the opening of the cave, right? Well, if we saw the corner when we're looking at Mel, then when we pan over to look at TNR, we'd be seeing the other corner. So that means that we really need to pull back up shot number 21 and 321.craw seems to... Wait, are we in solo mode? No, we're not in solo mode. Okay, so that's somewhat horrifying. I'm going to skip that for now. It actually looks like... I don't think it's conceivable that I worked on that shot for several hours, this shot right here for several hours, but never saved my work. Like, that never happens. So that's a little strange. However, another thing I just noticed, by the way, is that the layer effects on Melchizedek that's supposed to be putting an outline around his eyebrows isn't there. So if I did somehow fail to save my work, which would be really bizarre, then it's not that big of a deal. I have ways to fix these things when they come up from time to time. But let's see what we have here. Yeah, there's no Melchizedek. What the heck? It's almost like... I think I know what happened here. I think what happened here was autosave bit me. What I did was I made changes to 321 and took layers out in order to put TNR in. And while I was working, but before I officially saved it as 322, Krita auto-saved. That could mean, I'm sure that's what happened. Not a big deal. What I'm curious about, it's worth taking a look here on my other screen. I'm going to look and see if, I just don't remember if Krita is making backups. But like I said, don't be too horrified here, friends. If I wound up just losing that work, that's going to be pretty easy to overcome. What I'll do is I'll resave. I'll actually load the whole shot as an animated image sequence into Krita, resave it as 321. Now we have a shot that I really don't have the ability to pull the pieces back out of it and use in other shots, but that's not the end of the world. And then we'll fix the outlines around the eyebrows with our brush and just re-render it. It's not really a big deal. Okay, so seems worse than it is. I've had more horrifying things happen. So on my other screen, I'm looking in the folder to see if there's a backup. Okay, there is a backup, and the backup is much, much larger than the official CRA file. So this is the CRA tilde file, and I'll bet you, watch this. Ta-da! Okay, so file, save as, and we'll immediately save that as 321. And we're back in business. Piece of cake. Now, let's double check our render settings. Yep, 21, 21. So the problem that we had here was that Melchizedek's brows were supposed to have this layer effect turned on. Now, to be fair, that effect needs some work. So let's go to layer styles. So all I did was I just wanted to be able to just draw the shape of the eyebrows and let Krita put in the outlines for me. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I'm just making an adjust. Okay, I see. This is kind of interesting. Okay, changing the color. Little risky because it's in multiply mode. So let me come back here. Let's see if we put this in normal mode. That might be wiser in this kind of unusual case. Yes. Okay. And then we can crank up the opacity a bit. And what I see is that now there's a little too much saturation in this color, so we need to kind of chump it over to there. And good to go. Okay. Click OK, save your work. Little advice. If you know that the layer effects... Okay, let me say this. When I was working on this shot, using liquify on the eyebrows was actually shockingly performant. In other words, I could mush his eyebrows around, and Krita would instantly redraw the outline. So that was impressive. Notably, I won't explain how to do it here. If someone really wanted me to show them, I would. But if you don't want to use layer effects, there's actually some ways to use filter masks to get the same result, to draw automagic outlines around a layer. But layer styles work, so there it is. Anyway, the point I was trying to say is this. If you're going to use layer effects, it's not a bad idea to put the layer effect in a group and then merge the group if you know that what you got you're happy with. Because that takes the layer effects out, and now you just got a standard paint layer, and your performance is going to definitely be better. Okay? So, in fact, you can what I just did proves it, because when I was playing this back before, it would still take half a second to fill the animation cache. Not a big deal, but now without the layer effect, look at all these layers we have, but with the layer style turned off or baked in, now there's actually no caching required. So this is something I pointed out the other day. Krita, if you're doing most of the things you're trying to do with layers and blending modes as opposed to filters and filter masks, Krita is freakishly performant, even if you have lots and lots and lots of layers. So anyway, save our work and render it. Beautiful. That's going to be done here in half a second. Oh, I forgot something, didn't I? See, what I forgot is TNR is over here, theoretically. So what we want to do here is actually just remove this. Okay, I did not mean to do that. I need to be in erase mode. That should not be in there. Save that, render that, and then we'll jump back to Tianara, make sure she's rendered into the show, and see what we have. So thank you, Krita, for saving a backup when you autosave, because that backup salvaged my shot. Okay, so 321 gone. Back to Tianara. Render, that's 322, yes, perfect. And now we're going to jump over to Vegas and put Tianara in the shot just to see, just to basically make sure things are feeling good. Render, boom, boom, boom. Obviously she has no lip sync yet. 322, there it is. Properties, disable resampling. Not bad. Actually, the flow between those two shots looks pretty darn good. I think I'm happy with it. Okay, so let me go back to this screen so that I'm not risking forgetting to switch between the two. So in the last couple, 2 or 3 days, we've done this shot, this shot, this shot, the whole thing of which that took an hour and 15 minutes to do that whole shot. Amazing. And did this shot yesterday and today, and now we got the shot of Tianara to cut in. Well, that I just cut in. Okay, you can see one thing with Tianara is that her ink lines are too aggressive. Okay, so we want to go to the PT. That was pencil test. I'm going to call that ink. I probably should start changing the name of those layers to draw if I'm going to be doing this thing where I combine the ink or the pencil test and the ink lines in the same layer. But anyway, I'm going to select like this and then just scroll to her final landing position so that I can then just make an adjustment like that. Probably squeak a little bit more red into it, just a little bit. And that's multi-frame. That means all the frames that are in the current selection are going to get modified thusly. Okay, so now this little hiccup here in the ink layer, I'm not quite sure what that's about. So I'm going to grab my brush, go into erase mode, and I'm just going to take it out manually. No big deal. She's in motion, so you're never going to notice that little bit of scribbling that I did. Okay, boom. Okay, that's actual size on the ostensibly the TV screen, you might say. This is going to be the mouth. And let's hit the B key. Actually, let's just keep using my quote-unquote nice brush. And insert a keyframe. Okay, we're going to reuse this. Okay, so she has a wing to I'm going to actually flip this around. Okay, that is a little sloppy, no doubt about it. That's not horrible, but it could be cleaned up as well. I'm just hitting the E key to toggle between erase mode and drawing mode. Okay. Hello. Grab these two, smack those in there, and then insert, not in erase mode, E key. Okay, flip it back. Maybe grab the greatest idea. Okay, she's got actually like two bits of dialogue too many. Okay. Let's say here Actually, let's just go ahead and, for this mouth situation, we can just make it transparent. That's going to work. Yeah. And then let's put in a blink layer. Let's turn these effects off so they're not corrupting the color. And then we'll go here, insert a keyframe, sample our skin color, and just paint over her eyes. Typically, if somebody's about to move, generally you're going to want to have a blink. And then we just go after it and hit insert. Okay, and then I would say just do the same thing here. I'm going to flip this over so it's a little easier to do for a righty like myself. Boom, 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 boom. Back to something kind of along the lines of our ink color-ish. Insert a keyframe afterwards. 5 key, N key, hello, 5 key. What's going on, 5 key? Why aren't you working? There we go. Okay. Turn the skins back off and render. Okay, looking at the how stable are the layer styles in Krita now? I would say they're stable. I haven't seen them crash much, but what I have seen, it actually happened on the Mel shot. Quite bizarre actually. It shows how much garbage you have under the hood in terms of the buffer management in Krita. But basically what happened, I'll show you if I can pull it up and hopefully what happened was I had a layer style on the eyebrows, so it was just this one layer. And what was happening was when I painted in the blinks, which was nothing more than just painting shapes of color, like I just did with Tianara, the layer style effect would redraw itself over here. I mean, it was like really bizarre stuff going on. But I ignored it because I knew it was just a buffering artifact. And so in that sense, I would say it's clear that there's some instability, but it doesn't crash the program. And especially if you once you've got what you want with a layer style, I would always bake it in. If you're worried about, you know, taking that step, then duplicate the layer so you've got a copy of it that you turn off, and then bake it down into the copy, you know, just as a safety measure. And I would not, when you're baking in a layer style, I would not use flatten layer. Flatten layer, it's bizarre, but flatten layer routinely results in buffering artifacts, especially with layer styles. Where what it'll do is, if your character was animated and you've got layers, let's say you had an outline around her, okay? And let's just say for the sake of argument, she's on a single layer and you've got an outline around her. What happens is when you flatten the layer, you wind up seeing all of the outlines from all the animated keyframes are printed into all of the frames. So it's really crazy. But if you simply take the layer that you want to bake down, hit Control G to put it in a group and then merge the group instead of flattening the layer, you get the exact same result, plus it renders faster, plus you don't get the artifacting. So there it is. Yes, and about the yes, merging the effect. If you've seen anything happen in Krita at all that involves buffering artifacts of various kinds, let me render this and I'll actually do it, and we'll see if I get lucky and actually can cause the program to be stupid. Okay? So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take this layer for Tia and double it. Okay, so I just made a copy of it. Now, if I take this whole group that's got a ton of animation keys in it, and I flatten, well, it won't let me flatten the layer actually, because it's a group. So I guess you'll have to take my word for it. If you use merge group, whatever it is that you want to bake down, put it in a group and merge the group. Like every time. That's the rule in Krita. That is stable and it's fast and it works. In Krita 4, this was really horrendous. And merge group didn't even. There were still artifacting sometimes with merge group, but it wasn't as bad. Like if you use transform masks, you're gonna have problems if you try to flatten a layer. But if you just, as a matter of policy, you never flatten a layer. You always just hit Control G and then merge the group. You'll have way fewer problems. That I can promise you. And that has held true through multiple versions of Krita, going back a year or two, for sure. Okay, so there it is. So now let's see how it looks all. This is what they'll see on TV. Boom. So what's the dialogue here? He says, so Luca's like, looks like the soldiers are marching to Gripson. Oh. Wow, you got all that from a few chirps? Impressive. Maybe going into Gripson isn't the best idea. Or something like that. I may massage her dialogue, but okay, let me look at that again. Cool. So once she finishes, blink and we will cut it off probably there. Let's see. Boom. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so now we've got this done, this done, and then Luca's like, no, we need food and supplies. The woods are too thick. And Vespar's no dummy. He knows the path you'd be taking. So the problem that they have is that they're really, to get to where they want to get to, they have to go through. Gripson, the village of Gripson, which is like a really, really religious town. And it's going to turn out in Gripson that in order for them to get supplies, Melchizedek is really going to have to take charge of that, while Tianara is all covered up, and Luca's actually kind of posing as a girl too, because the soldiers know Luca, and if they see him in Gripson, they're going to know something's up, especially if they know that he lied in episode 2 about having not seen Tianara, because Vespar found the pendant, so they know that they were there, or that she was there. And so if they put 2 and 2 together, which we don't know at this point if they have put 2 and 2 together, but if they do, then that sort of implicates Luca. And so the only one in the group, the soldiers in Vespar don't know that Tianara is traveling in a group. Okay, they don't know that yet. But the only character that they don't know or aren't really familiar with is Melchizedek. So when they go into Gripson, Melchizedek's gotta be the one that takes charge of getting supplies. And the way he does it is he insinuates himself into a tavern and basically just, well, he goes into the tavern, he's kind of checking things out, and I'm thinking that the tavern keeper says, "You go get the order on table 4," kind of thing. He basically assumes he's the new guy, kind of thing. And then Mel finds himself taking the order for Tobias and Vespar. So it's going to be a lot of fun, actually. It's a real cluster, you know what, of circumstances. So yeah, like I said, kind of fun. All right, and that's what happened. So now we've been working for an hour. It's kind of amazing. We've managed to do a 4-minute shot, or a 4-second shot in less than an hour, which is really, really good. That's what we like to see, friends. That's what we like to see. Am I right? Okay, so the next thing is Luca. And so let's go back and look at our. Yeah, we need to just reuse this shot. We need to just reuse this shot. Let's see. Let's see how far we could go. I'm gonna do this just for fun. Um, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to just control drag this. This is not gonna work. I know it's not gonna work because of monkey. Okay, but this gives me a sense of what I've got to work with in terms of the shots. So she's like, maybe going into Gripson isn't the greatest idea. Hmm, we need supplies. Honestly, this works. For Monkey to chirp there is completely reasonable, and Luca is by running the shot in reverse. Luca is looking at TNR, so that means he's like, "Nah, we need supplies," and all we have to do is we extend it to here. He turns his attention to Melchizedek, and then actually, I'm not gonna really do it this way, but watch this. If we wait until Monkey's out of the shot, I'll go ahead and make a duplicate of shot 20 just to do this, but if we extend his dialogue, his lip sync like that, and then take the final shot here after his mouth is closed, if we take that shot right there and lay it in at the end, we've got our shot. We're done. I actually think that's all it's going to take. So I'm going to try that. Let me go to 320. Let me go to my favorites, which is episode 320, and we're looking for this shot right here. That's it. Nope. It's got to be after Monkey's gone, which is actually before Monkey entered because we're running it in reverse. So that means it's going to be here somewhere. Yep, that's it. So if we take that and drag that into Vegas here, look at this, guys. This is crazy stuff. Let me look at what Luca's dialogue is. We need foods and supplies and the woods are too thick. This line about Vespar's no dummy is not actually strictly needed. The main thing I want to get is this bit in there. Okay, so maybe moving into the Gripson's not the greatest idea. We need supplies and the woods are too thick. Okay, he's actually got too much lip sync, so and the timing of it's a little winky because of the repetition. Yes. That right there, oopsie poo. That right there should not be in there. Okay, and then this shot needs to be cut tighter. Yeah, so she blinks. Oh, the woods are too thick. We gotta get supplies. There we go. Shot done. So we have done, friends, we have created 10 seconds of show in an hour. Actually, an hour and 9 minutes. That's what we like to see, friends. That's what we like to see. I am the pragmatic animator, and with the caveat that if playing these kinds of tricks, like running shots in reverse and whatnot, if it really harmed the flow of the show, I wouldn't do it. If it harmed the quality in some way, but I just don't see it. In this case, let's go back, and this is kind of amazing because we're almost 4 minutes into episode 3, and I've only been working on this for a few weeks. So let's just kind of look at what we've got. This can be deleted. Yes, isn't this amazing? Look at this, you guys. Oh my gosh, this whole sequence is almost done Because once Lucas says this line of dialogue, the line about Vespar being no dummy is actually said in the background as the camera's pulling out. No, the whole thing about Vespar is no dummy doesn't belong in there, really. We just want this line. If we want any chance of finding a boat, Gripson it is. And then the way I wrote it, just it's a little cheeseball, but the idea was that all three together say, Gripson it is. So all I need to do is this shot, and this shot is actually not this. I gotta find it. I don't think it's in this episode. Yeah, it's the end of episode 2. So we're gonna cheat, friends. We're gonna cheat and see if we can get away with this. Here we go. We're gonna open up Vegas again. Well, I tell you, Awkward Penguin, I'm really getting pretty stoked about if like I said, if I can keep the quality high, then I'm actually prepping episodes 1 and 2 to go to the distributor, which I expect in the next couple weeks I'll be getting all the assets to the distributor. I got to do a little bit of music remastering, but I'm really looking forward to getting the show out on, like it'll be on probably like Freevee and Tubi, and of course it'll be available on YouTube as well through the distributor's channel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it'll be nice to get it out and see how it's going to do. So this is what we're looking for, actually. This right here, that shot. This shot, Control C. All right, let's Control C and Control V. Okay. Oh, we've got to get supplies. If we want any chance of finding a boat, Gripson it is. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's just crazy, man. It's crazy, and if I know I keep saying it, but I really want to emphasize if I was looking at this, and you know, as a cartoon, I was going, it's just a little too choppy or sloppy or whatever. Which there are things in episode 1 that I do feel that way about. But I just don't see it. In fact, I cheated through all this. You see these little clips. I'm sorry. These little clips right here are just clips that are repeated, or this one's run in reverse. It's like whatever it takes, man. And it all it does is raise the consistency of the show. So, I mean, this is what we've got. Just kind of look through here. I saw a little hiccup there on Tobias's beard. They'll probably want to address at some point. So Vespar's ranting and raving and complaining and blah, blah, blah. And then it wipes to these guys, trying to figure out their situation. Luca really, I know, we need a boat. Where are we going to find a boat? More importantly, where are we going to find a river? And Luca's like, we just crossed the little nab, I think it's called. And basically the Little Nab, this is true, and actually in the ancient Near East, the Little Nab River flows into the Tigris and flows to the town of Nippur, which is where they're going. So this is actually geographically accurate to the ancient Near East. She says, you're really not very bright, are you? It's kind of a Philip J. Fry moment. And then he hears Monkey, goes out, and then gets the message from Monkey that he can see the soldiers off in the distance marching in the same direction as Gripson, unfortunately. And that basically brings us up to where we are today. See a little hiccup on his mouth as well that I'll probably want to address. I love the way Luca takes charge. He's he's an interesting kid. Okay, and by the way, it could also be argued that there's a flaw here because technically the moon really shouldn't be there in the corner. Um, the moon really should be off in the distance, but I think people will forgive that. Um, the other thing is, I would like to do another version of this shot where the kids are quite a bit darker in the shot. Right now, I think they're kind of standing out too much. But that's it. Actually, I've gone as far as I can go because um, if I'm not mistaken, the next thing in the script, I went from doing a written script to working from a plot line, and that's what I've been doing through this whole sequence. I've just been working from the plot. And I'm having more fun doing it this way, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. But I think now, I don't know what happens next. I think it transitions to Golek, which is a fairly funny scene because he's having a interaction with a eunuch, and the eunuch kind of talks like this. He's a funny character who he has no illusions about the malfeasance that Golek is up to. It's not a secret amongst the servant population in the castle. But anyway, that's what comes next. So I need to take a look at the plot line and then probably map out a new bit of storyboard, and then we will be ready to rock on the next sequence. So I think that's it for now. I will sign off, and hey, as you guys know, there most definitely will be more later.